Hello, it's Kat, and welcome to the live. Today we're going to talk about human consumption of self, basically. If you're new to the live, please check below the post below on Facebook for any particulars about your not wanting to be seen, because this is a public live, and if you comment it can be seen, and I just want you aware. If you want to comment in Messenger, I do see them. It takes a few minutes for me to get um what do you call it, oh, drawing a blank. Takes me a few minutes to get notification, but I will respond to you. I hope you're all having a good day. I am Kat. I am an admin on the War at Home, on the Guardians War Cry, both on Facebook, and I'm also uh, participate on Guardians War Cry YouTube channel. And what we talk about is we talk about coercive control, abuse, and um, as survivors, what may be uh, playing part to what we're in. And so today's topic, I wanted it to be about consumption. When I was younger, my daughter was probably about 5 to 7, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we were at the grocery store, and she said, "How come they have a woman in a swimming suit on the front of um, a magazine about sports?" It didn't make sense to her um, that they were modeling on that. And it got me to thinking about, we have this consumption of, we've got to have the perfect house, the perfect fencing, the perfect family. We have to come from a perfect family. We have to make a perfect family, and all these things. Wearing makeup, doing all these things that take us away from our humanness. I think in some realms, came across a quote by somebody named George uh, Men- Memboli. And he said the ideal of consumption is so prevalent that it becomes invisible. And I think that's really true. I think people don't think about what others may be thinking. They understand their own plight. Like when I left, I was very angry. And my son said to me, he said, "Mom, you are not going to change the way men behave in uh, 3 months that have been this way for years, centuries." And I was unaware, it was invisible to me that people were behaving in this fashion. And so I wanted to talk about this idea of being human and not a human doing. We have another quote that I came across, which is, "This isn't about romance. You're not a damsel in distress, and I'm not the handsome prince come to save you." That's by C.J. Roberts. And I think that's so true. It's like, how is society defining us as people? And more importantly, how are you defining yourself as a human being? And I come back to that thought process where I was talking to my son, and he was like, "You can't change the way men have been in uh, centuries. You got to come more down the middle." And that coming more down the middle, because I also had um, brothers that I grew up with. They didn't want to isolate people. I just wanted to understand what this is. This is why I talk about um, coercive control, because men typically know what that is. Women typically don't, because we don't study war. And that's part of that um, POW research that Biderman, which is another person I talk about, talks about. And so I think it's important for us to understand as men and women and people who identify in different ways that we can all come to this table in a different fashion for looking at things differently. My son also told me, he said, you think about Martin Luther King, he came down the middle. He talked about humans and what was okay for human. It wasn't about man or woman, it was about humans. And I think that's true. And I think we get lost in these games where we blame the other person or we blame the other group, or they may not have the right clothes, they may not have the right home that they come from. And what we really need is a sense of self. Who are you? How do you stack up? Because I think about, there's this whole thing with people that are being abused from when they were young. They had to watch people and make sure that they were doing things properly so that they wouldn't get hurt or be made a fool. And so they got really good at reading between the lines and trying to make themselves perfect. And I think that's sad that we have this kind of issue of having to be perfect, or having to have this certain house, or having to have this certain job and this certain look. And I think about the delusions of the narcissist and what their fantasy is, and making sure that you're meeting their fantasy. And so they intercept when you're not doing what they want you to do. And they use those tactics that Biderman is talking about in order to mold you into what they want you to do. And I came across another quote by Bessel van der Kolk, and he said, as long as you keep secrets and suppress, you are fundamentally at war with yourself, because you're not honoring self. He didn't say that. I'm saying that. I'm interjecting that. He also said the critical issue is allowing yourself to know what you know. That takes an enormous amount of courage. And so all of this together, and I think about Walt Whitman and his words of dismiss anything that insults your soul. Re-examine everything and dismiss anything that insults your soul. And that takes courage to do that. It takes that deciding you want something different. I had a few issues this last couple of weeks where I didn't realize I had gotten triggered a few times, and I didn't take care of it for myself. And I got sick. And because that's how it stacked up for me. And so I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and she was like, you're not honoring yourself. You did nothing wrong in this situation, except you didn't take a good look at what was being said to you and making sure that you were giving yourself plenty of self-care, which is something I'm always talking about. And not that I have everything down and perfect. That's what I'm trying to say to you. I don't. But I also know that if I get out of balance where I'm not, that I'm hearing that voice inside my head that says I'm not good enough, that I need to feed that voice in my head that says I am good enough. And not listen to those secrets that I was told when I was younger that suppress and make me more at war with myself. That in a conversation with someone where I was trying to make a point and it wasn't being heard because they have their stuff and I have my stuff. And instead of disengaging in that, it ended up in a position where I wasn't being true to who I was. And I, of course, take responsibility for and accountability for when I'm not being true to myself and say I need to handle that differently for myself. And how is it that I'm going to handle that differently for myself? You see, I don't have all the answers, but what I do have is a love for self, an understanding that I don't need Prince Charming to come save me. It's an inside job. There's nothing to fix here. You're inherently okay. When you were born into this world, you were inherently okay, and you're still inherently okay. Purely okay. Divinely made. You're a human being, not a human doing. And so look at your situation, your personal situation, and see where you're being a human being and not a human doing. Because I think the the big push that I want to have you understand is that first comment I made, that the ideology of consumption is so prevalent that it becomes invisible. You don't see it. And so understanding that I don't have to be anybody other than Kat. It's who I am. And I have a definition of myself as Kat. And when I'm stepping out of that definition, I need to go back into Kat and say, well, that didn't work out well. And what is it? Where did you step out? And where I stepped out is instead of um, honoring myself and saying what I wanted to say, I made it more complicated and messy. And that's not somebody else's fault. That's my own. Says I could have stepped out of that. At the same time, I'm not going to be hard on myself. I am a human being, not a human doing. I show up every day to try to be the best person that I can be. And if that's not good enough for other people, I don't care. It's like there's this song, and I'll put it out on this video after this, where he just talks about keep stepping into, uh, it doesn't matter what they say, keep stepping and be who you are. And let those failings that you feel like you've made, let them go. Keep letting them go. They're the chains that are holding you down. They're the chains that are binding you. You're a human being. You are most loved here. Take care. I hope this helps. Take care.